thank you everyone for joining and listening to us. So personally for me and also from the interactions, it's been extremely enriching and it's been a great day. Only because it was surprising to see, I mean, we all know about the extreme heat events and how cooling is becoming more and more of a necessity now, and some kind of thermal comfort is required for all kind of houses, the most vulnerable section of society as well as for businesses like data centers and so on. But the steps that Tamil Nadu as a state is taking, the State Planning Commission, look at it very holistically from an urban planning level, and then from an urban planning standpoint to see how can you look at more measures to essentially have more passive cooling elements, increasing the green cover, trees and so on and so forth, and looking at different types of roads, for example, to minimize the extent of heat within cities. And then their openness to look at new technologies and solutions like district cooling towards making sure that this cooling requirement can be met through something that is more environment friendly, far more energy efficient and cost cheaper as well compared to what is there right now. I think it was quite promising to see that, that the state is actually taking the lead on many fronts, and Rahul can add in as well, but the State Planning Commission has a district cooling committee, and seeing the committee members on this for the state, which has a good cross section of department like Tangent-Co, SIPCOT, TIDCO, IIT Madras and so on. Looking at this in a very comprehensive way was a good takeaway for me from this conversation. And we also kind of presented a report out here saying that this report can be made available. I think we'd like to see it. We just kind of wanted to highlight in Tamil Nadu state specifically what can be the climate benefit and of course the cost benefit, and what kind of projects you can incorporate district cooling. So we looked at a whole lot of existing areas within Chennai and so on, to say like Taramani for example as location and so on, where currently district cooling has not been done. People have just been doing their own cooling in the way they have done individually. And vis-a-vis that, if it was to be converted into something that is more central, what can be the benefit from a cost standpoint, environment standpoint, everything. So this report was published today, talking about both brownfield as well as greenfield projects that are being done. And so that also kind of was received quite well. And finally, like Priyanka just said, at the end, the discussions were with a variety of stakeholders, which included some private sector developers like Brigade and Tata Realty. It also had consultants, urban planners, state government, Tangent-Co and so on. And the idea was to have an open conversation with everyone in terms of how can the state be the front runner in India towards following something that can be the most cost-effective, energy-efficient, sustainable cooling solution that can be adopted across the state. And I think the feedback that was given by various stakeholders was very interesting, at least for me also, given that as a company we are a district cooling utility. We basically invest, own and operate large cooling infrastructure. So we've been doing this, of course, in many parts of the world. And in India, it's been about a few years now where through a joint venture with the World Bank IFC, we've been trying to invest in projects, and it's good to see the level of commitment that Tamil Nadu has, and we're hoping that we'll have some very tangible investment opportunities in the near future.
When it's gutting out, and then, or if it's a centrally cooled building, on the rooftop you'll have all kind of water tanks and cooling towers and so on. Right? So here, simple example, all the rooftops are clear. You can either have rooftop solar in a higher space, or even have a garden or a swimming pool or whatever you want. So that is one thing. Central district cooling plant, which can be close to all the buildings. And then you have pipes running under the ground to every building that provides cooling through a metered service to every building. Along with district cooling, the substation can be next to it. Most of the times, when those projects that are done, the district cooling plant goes next to a substation, so you don't have to use extra space. And the power demand from all the buildings go down substantially, by almost 70% because of the demand of the plant. You can actually have a solid waste to energy plant, which right now, waste is a big problem, only because the efficiency for waste energy plants is very low and the cost of power is very high. But when you produce power for the cooling plant and you also use the waste heat for cooling, it makes waste energy more economically viable. Then of course, while there are sewage treatment plants in basements for some campuses and so on, we still don't treat more than 25-30% of the sewage. It's a big problem in most cities. When you actually have something like this, you can actually have a sewage treatment plant that can provide water for the cooling plant, which solves the problem of sewage disposal and gives viability for that and for this without using fresh water. As a result of using more of treated sewage for the plant, you will eliminate the retardant effect that comes about because of every AC in the house ejecting heat. So yeah, and I think the solar power from the buildings can either make the buildings. So in this kind of a system, if you can actually plan waste to energy, sewage and district cooling combined, and more rooftop solar, this whole location of these 20 buildings can almost completely go off the grid. You can minimize up to 80 to 90% of the power required from the grid. It will come basically from the captive sources out here, and cooling can actually enable that.
I think the sessions were really very well organized with a very right blend of the things that were needed, from showcasing some of the things, for example the report that came out, giving the potentials for the brownfield as well as the greenfield projects that we have in the state of Tamil Nadu, to also understanding the ground realities and the challenges that are being faced from all the ends, from the, for example, say the state planning commissions, from the government side, as well as from the developers and the technology providers sides. So that came out very well. I think some of the suggestions could be readily implemented or at least taken forward. For example, they said that this also needs to be taken up with the regulatory commissions, and we are also trying to have some dialogues with the regulatory commissions for special tariffs for the DCS. Then some of the suggestions also came that we need to have more and more successful case studies being showcased to the government bodies, to the developers, to build confidence in them. And here this again could be taken up because we are also identifying the projects that are in pipeline and the projects that has been successfully completed and is running. And a very, let's say, right demonstration of all these things to all the relevant stakeholders will again build confidence in them. So I think there are a lot of takeaways, and where some maybe require a midterm or long-term planning, but some are there which could be readily taken up. And one of the very important elements, because we have the GIZ has always been working with the central government at mostly central level in formulation of policy. We always believe that something has to come from a top-down approach, but here, I mean, we were proven wrong, because we tried to have some conversations, some dialogues with MoHUA, which are still, let's say, at a very nascent stage. But Tamil Nadu, with their proactive approach, have shown that it is not that you always need a push from the center. If the state wants to do something, if the state is proactive enough and understand their own responsibilities, their own opportunities, and the benefits that are associated, they can themselves implement projects. So this is a very good key learning, which at least for me it is.
With the state government, and UNEP has an MOU to support state government on integrating heat resilient and climate resilient technologies into the city's expansion and infrastructure growth. So we are closely working with various departments, and what I see is cooling is such a sector where it's cross-cutting across all the departments, whether it is industries, whether it is urban development, whether it is municipal corporations, whether it is energy department. So it's very important that all these stakeholders are on same platform and on same table, and work in a very coordinated way to develop the strategies and policies which can then be very practical and which can get implemented at ground level. So what I see from today is most of the government department has participated, and even the district cooling committee members, if you see, we have drawn all the from members from all the departments, so that the action plan for district cooling, which is being under development, it covers and addresses all the issues and concerns related to implementation of district cooling.